Question here, when you say hedge, you are buying some puts. Not necessarily puts. They could be calls on an inverse. It could be a butterfly. Hedge could be calls, right? If I have if I'm short, and short for say June 20th, I don't know. This week looks like it might go higher. I might buy calls on something that I think is going to move higher. Unfortunately, calls are very expensive when the market has been moving higher like this. So what I go to usually is an inverse ETF, like say SQQQ, and then I'll buy the inverse, um, assuming I want to protect and have a hedge that does that. Then I probably would buy SQQQ calls. This is the inverse of the QQQ. So not necessarily puts, not necessarily calls, whatever the opposite direction is. So when I said earlier, not when I look at a daily chart like this, I'm like, where could this thing go? We're already at the top of the Bollinger Band. It looks like it's narrowing in here, almost a squeeze. You're now trading between the upper Bollinger Band and the 20. You are above the 200, so that's good. 200 over the 50, that's normal trend up. But you are getting a little lofty on the RSI on the daily. Do I want to reverse gears and start trading this thing up for a breakout of this or something different? So one of the ways I make that decision, or another view of the market, is to take a look at the weekly chart. When I look at the weekly chart, it presents a different scenario. You can see this is trend. This is correction, right? See how it's not just a pullback like this. This was really weird, but it recovered within the week. But on the weekly chart, look at the hold, broke through but still held, right? And then this, that's the beginning of the true confirmation of the rebound, is sort of the break of these down. So now where are we? So I thought maybe I'd run a fib level, just see what extension that provided. So let me run that real quick. And Rick, feel free to chime in if you see anything or want me to show anything. Or
Okay.
so here's the swing high down here to the swing low. Come on, man. So on a weekly ES, came down to here. Here's the 382 retracement. And look at this. Boom. Went up, but failed right at the 50. When I say 50, I mean the 50% retracement, right? If you guys have watched the fib videos, there's 50%. No coincidence. Now, this is weekly. Okay, this is not just a one candle, one day thing. It literally opened here, closed here on this week, opened here on this week, dropped down to here, and within 3 weeks came back up, tried to get past it. Now we're at the 618, retouching here. So this has been kind of a zone. Now you break out through that. The next level is the 786. That basically means 78.6% of the move from here to here. This obviously would be 100% of the move, 50% of the move, and this is 61.8% of the move, 78.6% of the move. So you can see that as you break through each level, you usually come up against some resistance. Got resistance right here, got resistance right here. Right here, it broke through for the week, gap down right to that level, almost to the dollar, down, finished the The following week, where? Right there at that level, open just below. And so the last couple of weeks that we are now solidly above it. All right, so that takes care of the 786. Now, what some people do with Fibonacci is once you've broken through that level to the next, they remove that level on the chart to clean it up. I like having them there because if price starts to come down, they become support levels. But for our purposes right now, I'll remove them to make it clearer. So we broke through the 382, remove fib level. If you break through here, that's the 100%, and then pull back and retest that level, and it holds, that's the next stop, which is 6,600. And then obviously you've got further extensions here that it can go up to, if that happens. But before that happens, you've got a pretty heavy level here at 62.28. So that's about a 200-point move, which easily could be between now and June 20th. It could fail before then. Usually when levels fail, they don't just come up here and then fail. Typically they come up here. Investors see the level above, and what do? They go, okay, I've had enough. And so you see it start to do that. So there's a little space in here. You know, I'm not convinced that this is a full-on rally. It's definitely a strong rebound, but I wanted to just give show the weekly chart just to give you some perspective of where we are and what resistance levels you might be coming up on. Yeah, no, I'm not really a big fan of supply zones. I can only look at so many things, and so I look at oversold, overbought conditions. I look at price action more than any. I look at some of the major moving averages that have historically held. Boom, boom. So obviously the 20 is very important here, isn't it? Obviously the 50 is a major level that when it breaks, it goes down. When it comes up, it usually pulls back and retests and either fires through or goes back down. In this case, it went above. But for me, price action, I will look at volume or supply zones, but it's not something I put on my chart. I know a lot of people like to put them on their chart, but 6,300 could be a level. Now that we've looked at the weekly, we can go back to the daily and then just see. It's interesting what happens here. The fib levels stay on here when you go to the daily. That's something a feature that I really like. And the reason to keep the fibs on here is that if you did get a pullback, you would expect it to hold here. So there's your number to hold, 59.29 on ES. That would, if it started to pull back. If you break 59.29, that opens the door to the 200. When you lose the 200, see you later. That thing should drop even further. Sellers will come in, and not just sellers, but the selling algorithms will kick in.
Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video from Trade With Me Now. Make sure to go ahead and like this video and subscribe to our channel so you make sure that you catch our next video right when it's released. Also, if you have a question or comment, please leave that in the comments section below. And of course, if you want to learn more about Trade With Me Now or join our community of profitable traders, go to tradewithmenow.com. There's also a link in the description below.